In this video, we're going to go through the major controls of the V60, just the different controls and what the different buttons do. The first thing that you need to do, or know how to do, is turn it on. It is the on-off button right here. If you also notice that the blinking light battery, I am currently charging the BiPAP ventilator, and that is letting me know that it is currently charging. If you see the alert button right here, that just means an alarm went off and it needs my attention. It's not going, it just lights up. So to turn it on and off, I press the button. Remember, I've already set up the circuit with my test alarm. Let it do its self-check, fire up, boom. And try to get it as close as we can. There. So what I'm going to do is go from the top to the bottom. If you look here, there is alarm silence right here. If you silence it, it will give you 2 minutes of alarm silence. Alarm reset, if we had any alarms here, you'd reset them by pressing that. Informational message, that is what is coming down here. So I can hide it and I look at my graphs. Here we have exhaled and timed. What that's telling you is if it is orange, it is saying that it is a mechanical breath, no patient effort. What I am going to do is trigger some breaths and look at the color. See, it turns aqua and it says spont for spontaneous. If you also look on your graph, they are aqua and the mechanical are orange. This should be an orange one, and this one will be aqua. Orange one, and the next one will be aqua. There. So what does aqua mean? It means a spontaneous, or the patient triggered the breath. Orange means it was a mechanical breath. It was time for the breath. So now we have what is in the breath cycle. Is it a time breath? And then exhale is blue. This is the actual rate the patient's doing. So these are not the settings, these are actual patient readings. We are receiving back 162 cc's or milliliters on the tidal volume. If you notice, this is a pressure cycled machine, so the tidal volume will vary a little bit. We have your minute ventilation, your peak inspiratory pressure, your total leak. How much is leaking out of the system? Right now we have 17 liters per minute. I am happy with that. Why am I happy with this? My patient's getting their pressure and there is no leak. If you put the mask too tight, you can risk a pressure ulcer on the face, which, not completely sure with the Florida laws. In Baltimore, that was reportable to the state, and I believe it is down here also. This is showing you how many breaths, what percentage of the breaths the patient has triggered. Since I am not triggering it right now, it is going down to, it's now 14%, and that'll continue to go down as we do this video. We have the inspiratory time to time total. This is per breath. So right now we're spending about 18% of our time on inhalation. Then we have our graphs. We have our pressure over time, our flow over time, and our volume over time. If we would like to pause, we can pause. After it finishes a sweep, it stops. If you look at this red line, these numbers right here are exactly on the red line. Now, up here on this is a touchpad dial. Right there. See how the red line's going back and forth? You can use this to set your numbers, set your settings, to set everything. It does not twist. It is a touchpad dial. If you want to, when you're setting your settings to accept, you hit the green check mark. Since we're in the graph, it does not show us anything. Hopefully you can see this on the video. I think you can. Right now this top one is reading 6.1. We have our EPAP down here, as you can see, set at 6. So basically our lowest pressure should be 6. It's reading 6.1. On the pressure curve, what is our max pressure? 15.1. We have our IPAP, which is the highest pressure it's going to reach, at 15, so that's good. Our flow is at 8.7 liters per minute. What is our max flow? Get it right there, 27.3 liters per minute. And right there, 2, 1.9, and then you go to exhalation. Max exhalation is negative 26.4. What is our max volume? 168. That's on the graph, looking at this one down here. This is also touch sensitive, so you can move that line with your finger. Now, these graphs look kind of small, so what else can I do? I can change the size. That's negative 30. This is an automatic change, and it'll size it to the good size for the graph. And the numbers on the bottom, right now, this is considered a 12-second sweep. So every 12 seconds it's going to sweep. I can change that. I now have a 24-second sweep, 3-second sweep, 6-second sweep, 12, and 24. Personal choice, I usually like about a 6 or 12, one of those two. So we have worked our way down. Now I paused it. How do I restart it? Hit play. There we go. So if you look down here, these are your settings. Okay? This will tell you what mode and setting you're in currently. These are your alarm settings, your modes, a menu, and how to put it on standby. So ST settings. Remember, ST stands for spontaneous timed. Spontaneous timed is your standard BiPAP. So spontaneous timed is allowing you to spontaneous. If the person doesn't breathe, it gives you a timed breath. So our IPAP, our highest pressure, is set at 15. That is the highest pressure that will be achieved. If I decrease my IPAP to 10, I accept it. Look what happens to my tidal volume. It drops. So my IPAP's 10, my EPAP's 6. So if I take this back up to 15, boom. This also tells you the pressure support, which is basically your delta P, change in pressure. So the bigger the delta P, the bigger the tidal volume. Or the bigger the pressure, typically the bigger the tidal volume. Then we get into our rate. Again, we can change this with this. It gives you your I to E right here. I'm going to take this down to 10. See, I use my check button up here to accept. I time. This is how you can change your time, how long of a breath you're giving. So many departments will set this up on a 1-second I time. What I would like to show you, boom, I'm going to pause it, this is where I would talk to my staff, and look at this right here. I have a 1.3 liter flow, 1.1, 0.8. Remember, with pressure ventilation, no flow equals no volume. Basically, right now, you're having the patient hold their breath. Why are you going to try to keep forcing gas in if they can't breathe? You have someone that's air hungry. You want to give them as much time to breathe as possible. So I would decrease my I time. I'm going to hit play up here, and let's put it at 0.9 to see what happens. I still have a flat spot there. Let's change this to a 3-second sweep. There. See, flat, no flow. Let's do 6, flat. So I'm going to decrease my I time some more. What I'd like is expiration to begin exactly when inspiration ends. Still a little flat. Almost there. Now what you're going to say is, you dropped your I time to 0.65. Your tidal volume is going to suffer. Look at that. Tidal volume's 161. What was it when I was at 1 second? Wow, it's still at 160. I did not lose my tidal volume at all. Remember, no flow in pressure ventilation means no volume. I'm back down to 0.65. I just gave the patient another 0.35 seconds per breath on time to exhale. So 0.35 seconds times 10, that's another 3.5 seconds per minute for exhalation. Doesn't sound like much, but when you're air hungry, it means a lot. Okay, rise time. If you look, it's a number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are just settings. But what rise time is, you'll have it on the V60 and also on the ventilators. It may be called rise time percentage, inspiratory rise percentage, different names. Basically, whether you're in volume or pressure, it is the amount of time that it takes to get from baseline up to maximum pressure in pressure ventilators. With flow, it's the time from getting from, with volume ventilation, it's the time from getting to zero flow to peak flow. So both things are basically synonymous. With volume ventilation, it's how long does it take to get from zero flow to max flow. And pressure, how long does it take to get from your base pressure to your max pressure. If you forget on the Respironics, the V60, it gives you a graph right there. So I want to take this up to 5, and let's watch the pressure curve. See how straight it is now? It'll be the next breath. Boom. The thing is, we never hit our max pressure. You see that? Now I'm going to take it up here. It takes so long to get up that we never hit our max pressure. If you notice, the flow is also affected and our volume is affected. If we don't get up to max pressure, we don't get it. So with this case, I would probably want to increase my I time some if the patient doesn't tolerate. When do you use the rise time? If the patient says, I just can't take that pressure, oh, it hurts, I can't take it, it's not good for me. It's more of a patient comfort. Some patients need a little ease in of the breath. So if they can't take it, you put the mask on their face and you're like, ooh, too much of a hit. Then you want to ease that breath in. Okay, that is rise time. This is ramp. What ramp does is, see here, it starts off at a low pressure and goes up to the high pressure. What this is like if someone's wearing this for sleep, to go to sleep, they can put it on and set the ramp. It'll start off at low pressures, and over 5 minutes up to 45 minutes, it'll eventually get up to their pressure. It's supposed to be helping a patient wear it. This is something from home care. Home care had it for years. Finally, acute care said, hey, let's use the stuff that home care uses, and it's supposed to help the patients wear it more often. Okay, EPAP. This is the end pressure. This is the pressure that the ventilator will never go below when they exhale. So our pressure down here is 6. So if we take it to 5, see our pressure support, the delta P is now 10. Remember, the bigger the delta P, typically, as long as you have flow, the bigger the tidal volume. So our EPAP is 5, IPAP is 15, right there. So our delta P, or pressure support, is 10. We're going to accept that. Boom. And O2 percentage, I only have it on 21%, mainly because I'm not hooked up to the wall. But let's take it up to 22, and we'll get an alarm because I don't have oxygen. Okay. If you see the alarms here, a red alarm is a high priority. A yellow alarm is a low priority. Okay? High priority alarm is going to keep going until I hit alarm silence. I am going to get a low priority alarm for you. There's a low priority, low tidal volume. Okay, so let's get my back down to 21%, get that alarm off. If you see a line come through your alarm, it's corrected. It's done. Now we only have a low priority alarm. The patient's still breathing, they're still okay. We just got a low alarm, some low tidal volume. And I just reset my, so if it hit that, boom. Okay, I'm not sure if you can hear the difference in the alarms. We have turned this down. So loudness. I know in many of my hospitals, we kept our alarms at 10 because we wanted to hear them. Hospitals are noisy. Okay, that is a low priority. Here's what a high priority sounds like. You will get to hate that alarm. And you can always reset. Boom. Okay, alarm settings. I'm going to take my toggle volume back down. So that is it for the ST settings. I'm going to clear my alarms. Now if we go to modes. We can do ST. Today we're only going to cover ST and CPAP. So when we come to CPAP, right there. What this is basically your CPAP. It never goes above or below. It just holds a constant pressure. Right now the constant pressure would be 4. I'm going to turn it up to 5 and accept. I'm going to activate. Boom. If you notice, we are not delivering breaths. That is the main difference between CPAP and BiPAP, is it does not deliver breaths. It depends on the patient to breathe. Oh, hush. There. Purely spontaneous. Okay. Ramp, just like with BiPAP, you put it on, it slowly ramps up the pressure. The lowest that it'll go is 4. So if I went to CPAP settings, let's turn this up. Let's say I had a CPAP of 10, hypothetically speaking. You see, it'd start off at 7 and go up to 10 over the course of 45 minutes. Okay, C-Flex. What is C-Flex? C-Flex, if you look at your flow curve and you look at your pressure curve, C-Flex is currently off. That means the pressure is held constant right there. The only blip you get is when I start exhaling, but it basically stays right on the 5. So if I take it up to 1, look at my pressure. You see that little drop right there? It mimics that. What it is C-Flex is an instantaneous drop in pressure to allow for easier exhalation. So if you have someone that's on CPAP, maybe they're having a little hard time to exhale, their CO2 may be a little higher maybe, or they're just saying it's really hard for me to exhale, try the C-Flex. And the higher the C-Flex, the bigger the instantaneous drop. And it goes up to 3. That's it. 1 off, 1, 2, 3. And if you look at the drop. Okay. Let's take it back down to 1. Whoop, off. Little drop, and let's take it off. See? Hardly any drop in pressure. That's it. And of course your FiO2. Modes again, we will go over AVAPs and PPV later. PCV, pressure control ventilation. This is where it is just a straight up ventilator. You have your IPAP, EPAP, your rate, your I time, your rise. Looks a lot like BiPAP. Yes, it is. Except ST is a non-invasive mode. PCV is an invasive mode. Okay, I am going to go back to modes and go to ST. Just so I don't have to listen to the alarms. Okay. With that, if we go to menu, brightness, this controls how bright the screen is. That's all it does. Loudness, we covered that. How loud is your alarm? And the clicks. Mask port, this is another important one. If you're using a Respironics mask, and it must be a Philips Respironics mask, it'll have a number on it. What that is it is coordinated with the amount of gas that is leaked out of the mask. If you look up here, right now I have it on other because I'm not using a Respironics mask. So it gives me a total leak. If I said I was using a mask with the number 1, watch what happens. Whoop, not yet. And then my exhalation. And now I have to do the test, so I test it. It's just testing my port. I'll show you how to do this in 1 second. Okay, now patient leak, nothing. Because it's compensating, it already knows the number 1, how much leak should be coming out, so it takes that out of the total leak. Basically, all you do is, if it's a Respironics mask, you look at the 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever's on the packaging, and you put that in. If you're using a non-Respironics mask, you're to use other. If you have this on a ET tube or trach, you use ET tube or trach. So since we have a test lung, I'll put it on other. What these are, DEP, that is a Respironics disposable exhalation port. Again, these are designed strictly for Respironics material. Respironics plateau exhalation valve. Other, or none. We have a inline exhalation valve right here. So that's why I chose other. And also there is a whisper swivel, which is another Respironics. So if you're using ET tube or trach, you would do none. Or whatever, the exhalation valve has to be in the circuit. So if I chose none, would go there. Boom. Ventilator info, if you're into that stuff, have fun with it. Screen lock. Whoa, guess what happened? My exhalation valve. Whoop, I locked the screen. If you notice, I locked the screen and it can't do anything. But if you look, screen locked, press check to unlock. Boom, we're unlocked. Let's go back to menu, mask port, take it back to its other, and other. Disconnect. What I'm going to do here, it is telling me right here, disconnect patient circuit from the mask or ET tube to proceed. It will then tell me to occlude the circuit and press start test. Okay, it is ready to go. Start ventilation. And I'm hooking my test lung back up. Okay. So then that is screen lock and auto track plus. Trigger normal. We're typically going to keep this on normal. This is how sensitive it is for the patient to trigger. You can make it harder for them to trigger. So if someone was auto cycling, you would make it a little bit harder. Typically, you're going to keep it at normal. Expiratory cycle, how long? Do you want them to hold their breath or not? So if we go with the dial here, it's a sensitivity. How sensitive do you want them to exhale? See, the more negative, almost the more eye time they get, the harder it is to exhale. The more positive, the easier it is to exhale. Typically, I say you're going to keep it on normal. Close that. Okay, there's a question mark down here. What that is, boom. Right there. Pause, it tells you everything on here. Exhale minute volume, vertical auto scale, time scale. On ACE battery, it'll tell me 1 hour and 6 minutes until I am fully charged. How do I know how much battery life that I have? It will actually tell me. All that's telling me is, dude, you're on battery backup now. Low priority alarm. Reset, I'm good to go. On battery power. Okay, if you want to go standby, Okay, if I want to see what my last message was, right there. Okay. Hide that. To go on standby, if your patient wants to eat dinner, eat a snack, and take their mask off, you don't have to turn this completely off. You just disconnect them from the mask, boom, and it goes back on. So the nurse puts them back on and forgets to start it. Once the patient starts breathing, it automatically goes back to the last mode. Okay? Standby, disconnect. Right there. Now if they put them back on, 2 ways to do it. That detected a breath. You can also restart right there. Okay. With that, that is the basics of the Respironics V60 ventilator. This will tell you what mode you're in, ST, active mode ST. You can always go in, just remember if I want to set up my CPAP, I can change it and have that on my standby. See if I go back into mode, CPAP, it did not take. Haha. But I can change and get everything set up before I activate it. There. Okay, that is the basics of the V60 pressure controlled time cycled ventilator.